Hey family, before we dive into today's video, I'd really appreciate your support. Subscribing is one of the best ways to help us out. It's quick, free, and keeps the awesome content coming. Every listen, like, and share truly means a lot. Let's keep this channel growing. Thank you so much. My ex betrayed me with Mybra 3rd before our wedding reaches out 12 years later, so I guess I should start by saying, I'm a 47-year-old guy who's finally getting married to this amazing woman. I've been dating for the last 4.5 years. Her name's Jess, she's 34, and honestly, she's the best thing that ever happened to me. We're supposed to get married in less than a week, and while issued be over the moon. I've got some serious history that's been weighing on mind. See, this isn't my first time going through the whole wedding prep thing. Nope. I almost got married once before, like 11 years ago, to my ex Lily. We're together for nearly 10 years, which is kind of wild now that I think about it. We met back in high school, did whole young love thing, and even lived together for 5 years. Everyone thought we were perfect for each other, and yeah, I thought so too. I was totally ready to marry her, like we were, practically living like we were married already, but things didn't go as planned, and by didn't go as planned, Iman, the whole thing blew up in my face, the worst way possible. It still feels weird talking about it, but I guess I need to get it out there, especially with everything that's happening now. Sorry. How it went down, my ex Lily and I had everything set for the wedding. I'm talking about the venue, the dress, the cake, all that stuff. My family was super excited because they loved her and we had been together for so long that she was basically already part of the family. My mom was over the moon about finale hating it. A daughter-in-law and my dad was just glad I wasn't screwing things up like I usually did the night before the wedding. Lily suggested I stay at a hotel instead of at home. She was really into all those superstitions, like the one where you're not supposed to see the bride before thooting because it's bad luck. I didn't truly believe in that stuff, but I figured, what the hell? It's her day, so just do what she wants. Plus it wasn't. To add to the whole excitement right anyway, I'm at the hotel just chilling, trying to wrap my head around the fact that I'm getting married the next day, but then I remember I left me shoes at home. Yeah, I know who forgets their wedding shoes. Well, apparently Ito's, so I head back home to grab them. It was already late, like around 10 p.m. or something, but I figured I'd be in and out in a minute. When I get to the house, everything's dark, and that's where Becca's. Lily never turns off the lights even if she's just leaving the room. For a minute, she's always been super scared off the dark. I thought maybe she went togged early, trying to get her beauty sleeper, whatever, so I didn't think too much of it. I went straight to the bedroom Becca's. That's where I left my shoes, and honestly, I was just thinking about grabbing them and getting back to the hotel as fast as possible, but when I opened the door, man, I swear my heart stopped. There they were, Lily and my little brother. Mark in my bed, not just sleeping or something, but actually doing it. I was completely frozen. It's like my brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. I just stood there like an idiot while they were too caught up in their thing to even notice me at first. It was like time slowed down, or something. I remember every single detail, like how Lily's hair was all messy. Ange had this stupid grin on her face, and how Mark had that look of panic when he finally realized I was standing there. I didn't even know how long I stood there for. My body finally kicked in, and it turned around and bolted out of theater. I don't even remember driving back to the hotel. It's all just a blur off headlights and street lights and my hands shaking so bad I could barely keep the car on the road. When I got back tummy room, I just collapsed. I didn't know what to do. My world had just come crashing down in the span of like 2 minutes. I was supposed to get married yet the next day, and now what? Everything was ruined. I must have sat there for Anhar, maybe more, just staring at the Waltrian to wrap my head around what had happened, and then out of nowhere tears started. I'm not talking about a few tears. I mean fooling, sobbing like he a kid who just lost his favorite toy. I cried until I had nothing left, and then I just laid there numb. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to explain what it happened because saying it out loud would make it real, and I wasn't ready for that. I didn't even tell Lily which hotel I was staying at, so Shekel didn't find me, but she sure tried. My phone started blowing up with texts from her, all these apologies and explanations, but I couldn't bring myself to read them. I didn't want to hear whatever underscore excuse she had for sleeping with me before. The night before our wedding, eventually, I did read them though. I didn't know why. Maybe I thought I need dead so now, or maybe I just wanted to torture myself a little more, she kept saying. It was a one-time thing that she was freaking out about the wedding that Mark had been there for her when she didn't know who else to turn to. It was all garbage she had. 10 years to talk to me about anything that was bothering her, but instead she chose to sleep with me. Brother, that's not a freaking out moment. That's a betrayal plain. In simple, I blocked her after that. I didn't to hear any more of her crap. E-blocked Mark too. I didn't want to hear from either of them ever again. And then I had to deal with the wedding. I had to cancel everything, call everyone and explain why there wasn't going to be a wedding anymore. That was probably the hardest part, because I knew everyone would be asking questions and I wasn't ready to answer them, but I did it anyway best. There was no way in hell I was going through with that wedding. I didn't care how much money I lost on deposits or whatever. I just wanted it all to be over. Telling my parents was a holy oath or nightmare. They were confused. Shell didn't know whether to comfort me or be mad at Mark. They wanted to fix things like parents always do, but this wasn't something that could be fixed. He told them what happened and then just let them figure out what they wanted to do. I wasn't going to tell them to pick sides, but I sure as hell wasn't going to go around if they decided to keep marking their lives. After all that, I ordered some rooms, ate maybe 2 bites, and then just cried myself to sleep. The next day, I started packing up Lily's stuff. I couldn't stand the thought of her being in my house, using me things, sleeping in my bed. I wanted her gone, and I didn't care where she went. When she came to get her things, Eva was already gone. I couldn't face her. I didn't want to see her ever again. I left her keys on the counter and made sure Eva was nowhere near the house when she came to bed. Was the last time I saw her for a long time. The next time was at some mutual friend's party a couple of years later. She tried to talk to me, but I walked out as soon as I saw her coming my way. I didn't owe her anything, not a conversation, not forgiveness, nothing. Mark, I haven't spoken to him since that night last. I heard he's been living in Europe, working some job or another, but he couldn't care less. As far as I'm concerned, he's not my brother anymore. No, anyway, that's all in the past now. I've moved on, I'm in a better place, and with Samoyan, I trust completely. But just when I thought it was all behind me here, we're a week before my wedding, and guess what decides to crawl out of the woodwork? Lily. I don't know how she found out about the wedding, but she did, and she reached out to me, and that's where it started getting really messed up again. So after everything that went down with Lily and my brother, I did what I had to do to pick up the pieces and move in with my life. It wasn't easy, and it sure as hell didn't happen overnight. But eventually, I got my act together, Mecha started building a new life, and things have been really good. We've got this wedding coming up in just a few days. And honestly, I thought I'd left all that old baggage behind me, but like I said, life has a way of throwing you for it. Loop. It started a few days ago. I was just scrolling through Facebook, minding me own business, checking out pictures from a buddy's camping trip, when I noticed I had a new friend request. Now, I didn't get many friend requests. These days, most of the people I care about are already on my list, and I'm not exactly out there making a bunch of new friends. No, so I figured it was probably just a spam account or something, but I saw the name Lily at first. I just stared at it, trying to process what I was seeing. It had been years since he blocked her, and I hadn't heard a peep from her since then. I had no idea why she was reaching out now, of all times, but seeing her name pop up on my screen made my stomach drop. I thought about just ignoring it, blocking her again without even looking at her profile button. Curiosity got the better of me. He clicked on her profile, and there it was, her new account. No friends, just a couple of pictures and a bunch of posts. A boot feeling lost and regretful. It didn't take a genius to figure out what was going on. She was fishing for typically, trying to work her way back into my life after all these years. It pissed me off, honestly. Like, where the hell does she get off thinking she can just waltz back in after what she did? But of course, it wasn't just a friend request. She'd sent me a message to Anne like an idiot. I clicked on it. The first few lines were all apologies, saying how sorry she was for everything that happened, that she'd been thinking about me a lot lately, and that she just wanted to talk. She even had the nerve to say she had heard about my upcoming wedding gown, that she was happy for me. But Elsa heartbroken, really, this one. Was heartbroken. I couldn't believe the audacity, but as much as I wanted to, just delete the message and pretend. I never saw it. Part of me was curious. E wanted to know what her angle was, why she was doing this now, so I kept reading. She went on about how she'd never realized over me that she made the biggest mistake of her life that night, and Thatcher's been living with that guilt ever since. She claimed that her life hadn't been the same without me, that she'd lost herself, and now with me getting married, couldn't bear the thought of losing forever. It was all this dramatic, emotional crap that honestly just made him want to throw my phone across. Theron, but then she dropped the real bomb. She wanted to meet up, she didn't say where or when, just that she needed to see me to explain everything. Toe-Face said it was the only way she could truly apologize, and as much as I had Tetsuo added it, a tiny part of me was tempted not, because I wanted her back, hell no, but because I wanted to finally confront her, to tell her exactly what I thought of her and what she did to me. The situation felt like a total deja vu. The way she pleaded for me to take her back despite her actions, and claimed that he was the only man she'd ever loved, had a impact on me, and I even told my fiancé about it immediately. Part of me was so perturbed by this that I wanted to give her a piece of my mind for bothering me before my wedding mutinated. More forgiving part of me really wanted revenge. I knew that. I'd done third thing all those years back, and had let with the situation like an adult. However, this time around, I harbored a strong desire to inflict emotional pain in her, to the extent that she wouldn't even consider reaching out to me. I confided in my fiancé about these feelings. She fully supported the idea despite her own experiences of being cheated on. In the past, acknowledging our relationship wasn't a tenure. It still left a painful impact. Sosha knew how I felt. So this time, instead of just letting it go, we came up with a plan to get revenge and make sure that my ex went through the same hard acts that she put me through. This is why, a couple of hours after I received her text, I decided to text her back saying that I was finally ready to talk to her. She expressed her readiness to come to my place immediately, but I suggested she get a room in a nearby hotel. I promised to meet her there the next day to avoid raising suspicions with my fiancé. Throughout this conversation, my fiancé was right beside me, and surprisingly, she agreed to Theppa. And so the next day, I went to her hotel. At the time we agreed upon, Shasim, overjoyed to see me, and was actually crying happy tears, but she'd be crying real tears in a couple of. Manetesh sat me down and started explaining how she'd been so sorry about what had happened for these past 12 years. E wanted to make it up to me, but didn't know how to get through to me until she heard from a friend that I was getting married again. She believed that sending Goan last text was crucial, fearing she would lose me forever if she didn't defend interest, attentively listening in, holding her hands while she spoke healed, the while I anxiously awaited my fiance's arrival after almost 20. Minatessa, knock on the door, signaled her presence, prompted me to rush and open it. My fiancé answered, followed by all 04 groomsmen and bridesmaids. Wearing masks of my brother's face, they had carried a cake in as well, and even that had my brother's face smiling up at Uzmi. X was horrified and couldn't even come up with words to say anything. Wild surprise eyes while she looked on me, a shocked expression on her face, because I'm sure nobody would have ever seen this coming. We managed to convince the hotel staff that we were surprising her, and it was relatively easy, since she'd already informed them to let in any guest who wanted to visit her, which she'd meant just for me, but I had other plans. After she was able to process what was happening, she started sobbing and mumbling some incoherent gibberish while crying. I wasn't inclined to let her off the hook so easily messing me. Just a week before my wedding, after cheating on me with my own brother, the day before we were to get married, was audacious now. She had to confront the consequences of her actions. I made it clear that this was what she deserved, and any chance offer conciliation, if ever, would only be considered after her betrayal. Then she was dead wrong. She had no business texting me after what she'd put me through, and I was glad that she was hurting what I'd done, because she'd brought it upon herself. I was really cold and curt while saying all of this, but she continued to sob and said that if I didn't want her back then, I should have just ignored and blocked her instead. of going out of my way to humiliate her like this, but I didn't feel sorry for her in the slightest. Not then, not now. He told her never to speak to me again. Anton left her crying by herself. In the hotel room now, I'm supposed to get married in 2 days, but some of Mafiance's friends want me to apologize to my ex, since they think that the way he told her off that day was harsh, despite her actions. Some may argue that she didn't deserve this. However, my groomsmen woe have known me since middle school and share this sentiment. They are fully aware of the battles I faced with depression and fighting for my life in tears, following my breakup with my ex. Due to the circumstances, they understand the depth of my love for Heron, what she meant to me, so they didn't judge or mind what I had done. My fiance's friends had probably been expecting some high school drama that they could gossip about later, but this was too raw and real for them, my fiance. On my side, and doesn't think I shall apologize, but her friends are refusing to be part of the wedding. If I don't doth it now, I'm really torn up, because on one hand, I don't want my fans to be upset on our wedding day. After all, she really values her friends, but I also didn't think I owe my ex any apology at all. She could have just stayed out of my life, and this never would have happened. But she just didn't want to see me happy, in fact. She still tried to play the victim here, and keep sending texts from spam accounts about how I broke her heart, and that this will definitely come back to me someday. I don't particularly care for this brand of emotional manipulation. Not for my ex, and mass certainly not for my fiancé bridesmaids. Now I know that. She's never going to tell me to apologize, just for her sake, but I sort of feel obliged to at this point, and that's why I'm hurrying, running out of time, and need to decide what I'm going to do. Right, no 84, humiliating my cheating ex after shitry. To get back with me, just a week BDA for my wedding update, 1, so their response on this has been pretty diversetto, say the least. There's just 1 day, Togo until the wedding, and I decided to speak to my fiancée before I actually do anything. Like most people have suggested subject, I talked to her about how Ivy been feeling, and as soon as I told her said that, I absolutely didn't have a toe. Apologized to my ex just because her bridesmaids fought. So, and if that offended them, then they could skip her. She shared that her bridesmaids were unaware of the details, and many of them believed I had overreacted after she explained that my ex Andy had been together for a decade, and Shed had cheated on me with my brother, an act perceived as incomprehensibly cruel and unforgivable. Despite the severity of the situation, they remained unconvinced still, thinking I was being unreasonable, owed her an apology. So she gave up trying to explain my side of things to them, and even told them that they didn't think to attend our wedding if they didn't feel like it. She hasn't spoken to her friends in 1 whole day, and it seems really unlikely that they'll be attending one of them. Even paid her back for the cost of the bridesmaid dress that she'd bought them all, and Shed thinks that most of them are going to ask it. She's putting up a strong front for me sake, but I know she's hurting. Since these women have been her friends since high school, my fiancé says she doesn't care, but I know she does deep down, so decided to talk to her friends and try to convince them myself as for me ex. She has become quite a nuisance. A few hours ago, she somehow managed Jetto called me and spent a whole 15-minute stream to argue. She was insistent on convincing me that I was still in love with her, but just too proud to admit it. Did she think so well, according to her? I went to such great lengths, only to humiliate her, so it's obviously meant that I still did have feelings for her deep down. Yeah, she's right, but the are of hate and disgust for whatever reason she believes I just wanted to see her one last time, which is what I'd held her hands while she was talking, but honestly, that was just Ashker even more. I literally laughed in her face while talking to her, hoping that she'd get the hint, but she kept on blabbering about how we were Solid Sand, that I needed to call off duty before I made a huge mistake. Trailing, the sole reason I'm considering any of this is to prevent her from making any regrettable decisions I've been attempting to contact a parento, facilitate her removal, but so far I haven't succeeded in reaching them consequently. I'm patiently waiting for their response. Once they step in, I'll finally be able to part ways with her for good. Don't get me wrong, I still to her, but I also don't want her to hurt herself. I'm not that inhuman update twee guys, so we're officially married now. It's been a couple of days since the ceremony and I still can't believe itches now. My wife, I'm thrilled. But unfortunately, there's still sad news. Her friends ended up not showing up to feuding, despite my attempts to get Femto come. I personally called each one of them up to explain why. I done what Edon and why I didn't want to apologize a bit. They didn't care much for it. Even when I asked them to attend, just for my wife's sake, they weren't too hot on I-10. That just seemed bizarre to me because I surely attend a friend's wedding. Even if I didn't particularly like the person they were getting married to, I only learned the real reason yesterday, when my wife finally confessed that she'd had a feeling her friends wouldn't attend whether or not I apologized simply because of the fact that she'd refused to do what they'd asked of her and had disagreed with Femthi. Didn't like that one bit and believe that they were all one unit Sothi. Always needed to have a united front. These friends from high school had been part of her life for a long time, and despite managing to keep the friendship intact over the years due to lack of significant disagreements, this was the first time their bond faced a serious test. In this instance, she chose him over her friends. A decision that didn't sit well with them, she confessed it to, feeling a bit upset about the situation, but was too embarrassed to admit it, considering the whole situation will be juvenile. I didn't mind Thawson's, at least now. I was sure that this wasn't really my fault, and her friends were. Just self-centered. My wife even said that part of her was glad Thathi refused to attend because she could finally stop trying to fit in all the damn time and could live life on her own terms, without constantly having to seek her friends' approval, so that was good for us. I suppose also, my ex-parents finally responded to me. On the evening before my wedding, I explained to them hurriedly what their daughter had tried to do, and how they needed to get to the hotel she'd been staying in and take her back with them for her own safety, because she was being really delusional. I didn't feel it was appropriate for her to be left alone. It turns out they were on a hiking trip without network access. However, upon their return, they assured me that they would come to take her back as soon as possible, and even express gratitude for informing them. I haven't received any updates since then, but I presume they successfully brought her back home. Update 3. Hi guys, it's been a week since my wedding, and unfortunately, it's been nothing but drama so far, as I mentioned. My girlfriend or her parents had been in touch with me since Stella's time. I spoke to her parents, Edasin, that they'd take her home viewed apartment, not 2 nights ago. There was a knock at our door, and since it was really late, my wife and I had no idea. Well, it could be because we weren't expecting anyone. I made the mistake of opening the door before looking through his cameras, and when I opened up, my ex pushed past me and walked in with her bags. My wife was sitting on the cushion, literally sprang to her feet as soon as my ex walked in. I was about to ask her what she was doing in my house, but before I could say anything, she told Metha she was here to stay. She told Metha her parents had come to bring her home a few days back, but she had refused to go since she knew that I would take her back soon. My wife and I were stunned and had no idea how to react because Ofo crazy all this seemed. She told Method her parents had tried to force Ito go back with them, but she'd had a hoosh fight with them and ended up staying at the hotel. Now she was running out of money and made the decision to move to my place. Her reasoning was that spending enough time with her again might trigger memories of the past and leave me to fall back in love with her. I was utterly perplexed and had no Idaho to react due to the sheer strangeness of the situation. My wife tried to speak to her, but she ignored her presence altogether and continued speaking to me, demanding that I let her live with us. I told Rose gently as you could that I was a married man. Now Ansha couldn't just show up here to live with me, but she said that she didn't tax it. The wedding, so in her eyes I was still unmarried. I couldn't believe that this was happening, but neither did I have the heart to kick her out, because honestly, she seemed seriously unstable. It appeared to me that she needed help, so I sat her down and told her to wait in the living room while I went to the bedroom with my wife to discuss what should do next. Thankfully, my wife was also quite sympathetic and knew there was something seriously off about how my ex was behaving. She needed serious professional help, and we realized it tried to get through to her parents, but they didn't accept my calls and text back saying that they couldn't force the comb back anymore. and she was clearly too psychotic to live with them. Now she was on her own. It was evident that her parents were embarrassed by her, and it was disheartening to witness how they were prepared to abandon their own daughter once they realized she was facing difficulties, with no other options left in response. I called my own parents, and they arrived within half. Anhor, my ex, had fallen asleep on the couch. In the meantime, which turned out to be fortunate upon my parents, Erivalwe decided to take her to a therapist as soon as possible, as her recent actions left us uncertain about what she might be capable of at this point. My wife Andy let her stay that night because honestly neither of us could bring ourselves to hate her anymore, because Ofo said the whole situation was clearly something had snapped in her mind, and she needed to be treated for it at the earliest, and the poor woman didn't even have her parents to count on anymore. My parents and I took her to the hospitality next day, and she was still rambling about how she was glad that I was finally coming around and had Evans started planning our wedding. We brought her to a mental health professional, but she adamantly refused, insisting that Chef felt perfectly fine despite numerous struggles and complications. The doctors were eventually able to calm her down with medication, including drugs whose names I didn't recall. Following the treatment, she appeared considerably more composed. A couple of hours later, she finally expressed the desire to return home. We brought her home, and we let her rest in the room, while my family and I sat in the living room thinking about what to do next. My wife and I were really relieved when she said that she wanted to go home now, and even helped her pack stuff in the trunk of our car we drove our home. Together, she remained silent throughout the ordeal, leaving USAT a loss for words in such a challenging situation. Upon returning home, she apologized to both of us for the trouble she had caused and expressed her shame over everything that had transpired. My wife and I felt a sense of awkwardness throughout the interaction, but we reassured her that it was okay and advised her to prioritize self. Heading back home, I didn't know if it would help or not, but I did contact my ex's mother and fill her in everything that had happened, and I guess that finally made them realize the gravity of the situation. She told Method she's moved in with her daughter and said that she'd keep us updated and despite whatever has happened so far, my wife, and I truly wish that she gets better.